welcome back to your Algebra 1 Semester 1 final review. We're looking at problem 53 from this year, and this is dealing with Jesse and his peach and apple trees. You'll notice that there are two lines graphed here, which tells us this is a system, more than one equation, and there's also shading, so it tells us it's a system of inequalities. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is come up with what are the two equations that are graphed, and then we'll talk about the shading. So, first thing we need to look at is the fact that Jesse can fit at most 9 trees. Notice that peach is on the x-axis, apple's on the y. So I guess peach will be x, apple y. And the x and the y are really the number of trees that Jesse buys. For example, if we look at a point here, maybe the point 6, 6, this would mean that Jesse bought 6 peach trees and 6 apple trees for a total of 12 trees, and that's too much, right? So we know that that point 6, 6 shouldn't be shaded, because we only shade things that work. So, starting with an equation. Our first one is that the number of peach trees plus the number of apple trees has to be something to do with 9. Well, it could equal 9, because you can fit at most 9, but nothing says he has to buy exactly 9, so I think we could probably say less than or equal to 9. Now, which line actually corresponds to that? Well, if you use our trick to find intercepts, right, if we take the line x plus y equals 9 and we look at the boundary line, when x is 0, that tells us that there's a y-intercept of 9. And I'll go ahead and mark all the y-intercepts of 9 on here in red. Okay. It also tells us that when y is 0, oops, I guess I did that backwards, there's an x-intercept of 9. Well, both the x and the y are 9, so I'm not super concerned with doing it backwards here. That worked out just okay. Alright, so if I connect these dots, you'll notice that I think every single graph has the correct equation of x plus y equals 9. They're all solid lines too, because we have a less than or equal to. So let's go ahead and maybe talk the blue line, and then we can come back to shading afterwards. My blue line is going to have to deal with the money. We know that every peach tree is $60, apple trees are $75, and he only has $600 to spend. Well, this tells us, for example, let's say that we bought, I don't know, 4 peach trees. If we bought 4, if x was 4, to figure out how much that cost, we'd have to do 4 times 60. So I think we're going to do $60 times however many x peach trees we got, plus $75 times y peach trees. And that's going to have to be, if they only have $600 to spend, that has to be less than or equal to $600. Right? Now, we can be fairly confident that the other line out here is this one, because all the other lines are the same. So I'll go ahead and maybe sketch in the blue that's here just so we can keep our colors rolling. Alright? Okay, there we go, and that's looking alright. Now we get to the shading part. In terms of shading, we need to try any point. 0, 0 is usually our go-to. So let's go ahead and try the point, and maybe I'll do this one in green, our test point. Let's try the point 0, 0 on every single line. So first I'm going to do 0 into this top line. We're going to do 0 for x and 0 for y and see if this is true or not. We get 0 less than or equal to 9. That is true for the red equation. So the red equation needs to be shaded downwards. And notice that this is actually already going to eliminate quite a few options. We'll see which ones once I'm done somewhat carefully shading in here. Okay, so it's definitely going to eliminate this option up here. We already said that every point here does not make the red equation true, so C is gone. And also notice that none of the arrows on red are pointing towards a shaded section. Also, I think this is going to eliminate B, because all my arrows here, none of those arrows are pointing to a shaded section, so B is also out. Okay, let's go ahead and try 0, 0 in our other equation. We get 60 times 0 plus 75 times 0 less than or equal to 600. We should end up with 0 plus 0 is less than or equal to 600. So 0 is less than or equal to 600. That's also true. Put a little smiley face. Okay, that's also true. So it tells us that the blue equation also needs to have arrows. Oh, I should have done these in different colors. Drat. It tells us that the blue equation also is going to have arrows that are pointing towards 0, 0. So let's take a peek. If I do that, then our blue is also pointing down something like this. And unfortunately, these graphs are pretty close together, but we can make this work. So looking at this, where do the two point to each other? Well, the only zone where they point to each other is this bottom zone right here. Notice that this one has this zone shaded. However, the blue arrows aren't pointing towards that zone, they're pointing below it. So D is also out, and therefore A has to be our right answer. Now, logically, we should have been able to figure this out. The shading has to show every possible tree we could buy. We could buy 1, 1, that's 2 total trees. We could buy 6 total trees. 4 plus 3 is 7 total trees. And you can do the math to make sure they're not more than $600. So logically, we should be able to figure this out. But this is the actual way I'm sure your teacher would want you to do it.